Good morning. Hope you slept well and you're feeling good. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We have a lot of great business, God's business, to take care of this morning and today. And so let us open with a word of prayer. Gracious God, we are grateful to be here together as brothers and sisters in Christ. We pray that you will watch over all of our conversations, presentations, deliberations, that you will help us to glorify your name. And God, in all of her wisdom, says, and the people of God say, Amen. I'd like to invite Sally Watson to give our General Presbytery's report.
Good morning. I thought I had about 15 minutes. Oh, well, okay. Good morning, y'all. What a time we're in. That's all I got to say. Thank goodness we finally had our first cold front, right? But it brought tornadoes along with it. Let's keep our friends from the Dallas area in our prayers for what will be a long physical recovery for them, even though, thank goodness, there were no deaths related there. I understand that there were some airlines in a mess on Thursday night, at least one that I know of. We got a mess at the border. We got a mess in Washington. There's actually a bit of a mess in Louisville right now. General Counsel has been talking about change all year, which brings along its own kind of mess. Some of our congregations are experiencing messes of their own, small and large. Some of our families have messes going on, small and large, of one kind or another. I don't know how a lot of us are vertical right now. To me, it just feels like we are in an especially rough time. Can we just take a moment right now and reach over and hug the person next to you or put your arm around them or something and tell each other it's going to be okay? It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Y'all are great. Y'all are great. It is going to be okay. For one thing, the Astros won one last night. And the Spurs are off on the right foot. Go Spurs, go. But more than that, we've got God's word, don't we? Okay? God is doing a new thing. And the plans that God has for us are for good and not for evil, to give us a future and a hope. Can I get an amen? Man. So what are some of the glimpses of good that we can hold on to in a time like this? Leaders from 20 of our congregations are going to be gathered at Mo Ranch in about a week or so to talk about congregational vitality and how to be about it. How many of y'all are here that are going to Mo? Yay! It's going to be good. Youth from our Presbytery rocked the triennium this year, packed John Knox Ranch for main event, and are preparing for midwinters at Mo Ranch. John Knox Ranch, by the way, in its own, is also rocking it, okay? 123 of our congregations, or 92.5% of you, have paid all your per capita for 2019.
Oh, wow.
That is a number that is increasing every year for the past 3 years, and I think as well that, am I right, Rita, that mission giving has also been up? Yes, y'all keep it up. And let me ask a favor real quick. Jim Ruby, could you go get Melody Gonzalez and ask her to come? I was going to send her a text, but I didn't have time. All right. There is a new worshiping community that is taking shape in the Rio Grande Valley region. We're excited about that. And I also got to tell you about this. One of our congregations is closing, but it is the healthiest dying church that I know. Chris Bear, will you and the saints from Alice please stand for a minute? Y'all are amazing. I want you to know that as they are closing, they saw a need that Charles and Melissa Johnson had in Africa and sent the money just because they wanted to do it. And the last offering that they're going to take at their closing service, to which you're invited, Sunday, November the 24th at 2 o'clock p.m., the last offering is going for the Christmas Joy gift because they want to go out 5 for 5 on special offerings. Okay? I love this congregation. And they themselves are good news. And even though they are closing, they are going to be spreading the good news to other congregations as they go. So really proud of y'all. There's a bunch of y'all, a bunch of good people have agreed to serve on committees and commissions for the coming year, and I'm grateful to every one of you. And you have got the hardest working staff around, gotta tell you. For those of y'all that may not know them, I'd like to ask our staff to stand so you can meet them and thank them for all that they're doing. You don't have to hold your applause, okay? All right. Along with your general presbyter, you have Stated Clerk Tricia Tedrow, Youth and Young Adult Advocate Caitlin Supkoff, Disaster Recovery Coordinator Ed Sackett, Office Administrator Melody Gonzalez, Commissioned Evangelist Ezekiel Herrera, Executive Director of John Knox Ranch Henry Owen, in absentia Accountant Jeannie Morgan, and yours truly. Thank y'all. I just want to thank our staff for all the hard work they put in every day to make sure that ministry happens in Central and South Texas. They are all amazing, and they're fun to work with. I understand they like margaritas. This is a good thing. And I hope that you get a chance this weekend to let them know personally how much you appreciate them today. I also want to give a shout out to Claudia Smith. Is she here yet? Where's Claudia? Where is she? There she is. Okay. Claudia is, for about 10 more minutes, is the chair of our human resource team. And without the hard work that she and the team put in, we would not have the staff that we have today. So thank you, Claudia. So you see, there may be a number of messes going on, or as I think it says in Scripture, the messes you will always have with you. Okay? But we're not alone. Okay? God's new things and God's good plans are going to get us through. And we are not alone because, what is it? We're better
together.
Love y'all. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
All right. Thank you, Sally. I was reminded that all the folks with the displays have wonderful material, and so I do encourage you to pick up display material. The more you take, the less we have to take home. All right. Now I'd like to invite Judy Ferguson, our Chair of General Council, to give her report.
Good morning. Our report is Report B in your packet, and there's only one motion coming from General Counsel. There are several items that we reviewed, and you'll be hearing about those in subsequent reports. But one of the things that we approved at this last meeting in September was that we create a standing committee to be called the Disaster Preparedness Committee. And with that, we also feel like that person that chairs that needs to be on the General Counsel. That means that we need to amend our Manual of Operations, and that is your privilege to do so. So this morning, on behalf of the General Counsel, I am bringing a motion that we amend the Manual of Operations to include the chair of the Disaster Preparedness Committee on General Council. And so on behalf of the council, Mr. Moderator, I move that.
Thank you. It's been moved by the council, therefore it does not require a second. Is there any discussion or questions that you may have about this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes.
Thank you. That really concludes my report, but I do want to draw your attention, and I'm sure Ed will too when he comes before you later, to the great document that they have prepared and that is now before you to take back to your congregations on disaster preparedness. A really important thing as we sit in this place and realize what can happen when a big storm comes. So take heart with that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Judy, and join me in thanking Judy for her incredible service as chair of our General Council. Now I'd like to invite Rita Livingston forward to give our Fiscal and Stewardship Oversight Committee report.
Alan Mosman, who has led the stewardship component of our committee, is going to say a few words first, and then I'll give you all of my report.
Thank you, Rita. How many of you have heard about the event Stewardship Kaleidoscope? Cool. How many of you have been to a Stewardship Kaleidoscope? All right. Good for you as well. Stewardship Kaleidoscope is an annual event that is prepared by several entities of the Presbyterian Church. It moves around every year. It is generally a 3-day conference that brings you the latest information about how to best practices of doing stewardship in the local church. And our committee has scholarship money to help you get to that event. Now, it's in San Diego about 2 weeks ago. And I'm afraid I walked up here without remembering where it is next year. It's not as exciting as San Diego, but we still have scholarship money to get you there. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about for just a brief moment is this is the point in time when most of our churches are in that process of creating the church budget for 2020. And I just want to encourage you, because you are the people who know the work of Mission Presbytery best, and you're most invested in it because of your presence here as a sign of that, to be an advocate for the work of Mission Presbytery as your church is doing that budgeting process. And someone will say, because they say it at my church and every other church I've ever been at, well, why should we give to Mission Presbytery? And let me give you 4 answers. The first answer is John Knox Ranch, because we have an outstanding camp for children, and we develop children into future leaders of the church. And let me tell you just a bit about Karen Ware Jackson. Karen Ware Jackson grew up at Parkway Presbyterian Church. She was a regular attender at John Knox Ranch. And so when she grew such a love for John Knox Ranch, she planned her wedding not at Parkway Presbyterian Church, but at John Knox Ranch. And she has 2 kids, and she lives in North Carolina. And she brings her kids to John Knox Ranch in the summer so that they can have the same sort of experience she had. That's the quality of facility and work that we have going on in this presbytery, and all of us should be in support of the work of John Knox Ranch. And then we can also say, you know, at the point in time when those teenagers start having questions about faith and they're asking those more deep intellectual and testing questions, we have a Youth Connection division that puts on outstanding events that no local church can duplicate. For instance, just one example, the Midwinter Retreat. If you get young people from your church to the Midwinter Retreat, you should be supporting the mission of Mission Presbytery. The other thing is that we're doing is we are preparing a future pastor for your church through the Committee on Preparation for Ministry that walks with candidates for ministry through that process and helps nurture them along the way so that they are able and ready to come and fill your place. And lastly, hopefully your church is happy with who you have serving you as the pastor or commissioned commissioned ruling elder right now. And I hope that relationship goes on and on and on, and you enjoy it forever. But if it doesn't, your first call is going to be to the Presbytery office and to the Commission on Ministry. The Commission on Ministry will walk with you through that process, and maybe that doesn't happen for you this year, maybe not next year, but some year. The Commission on Ministry is going to walk with your congregation through that process of calling someone to help you in ministry. Those are 4 things you can talk about, that the work of Mission Presbytery goes on all the time, and we all can support that mission. Thank you.
This is my last meeting as chair, and I am excited. I want to thank all my committee members that have worked over the last 3 years. We have a fabulous group of people working, and I'm so proud of what they've done. Fred Gamble and Alan will be co-chairs of the committee next year. Alan staying with stewardship and Fred with fiscal oversight. That's going to work really well. And I thank Alan for taking on the leadership of stewardship to help me out the last couple of years. So we really have come a long way, particularly with fiscal oversight. Sally asked me to glibly asked me to get transparency in finances, and I said, oh, sure, I could do that. Oh, my. Little did I know. But what we've worked really hard to put policies and procedures in place and sharing all of the financial reports with you. I know it makes some of you just roll your eyes and look at that and go, oh, really? But you have all the information we have, and that's part of transparency. So we've made a lot of progress. And I want to thank you particularly for your patience and support as we work to get things caught up and to clear up some messes and do things in a different way and become transparent. I just wanted to give you a few highlights of what fiscal oversight has accomplished over the last 3 years. We now have a handbook and many, many written policies and procedures. Some that we had to write from scratch, some that we reviewed and revised, some that we stole from other people and revised, but we have them, and they're going to all be on the website shortly. We have a policy regarding the Broadway building to monitor the funds that are available that we might be able to use for Presbytery operating costs while still leaving enough money in that fund to make necessary repairs and any renovations and for emergency kinds of things. We are monitoring investments. A big thing, which may not seem so big to you, we have a credit card for the office, and we have policies and procedures in place for the staff. The staff were using their own personal credit cards for Mission Presbytery business, and that's just unacceptable. So we've changed that. We changed the policy through working with General Counsel so that the trustees now receive enough money to take care of the properties that are under their jurisdiction. We have developed a policy for contract workers. We've dropped inefficient contracts. We have the JKR books now kept by Presbytery because they are us, and we're working on getting that concept across. The audit of the 2018 books, and we have scheduled for the 2019 books. I want to read you the email I received that was sent at 5:28 this morning by our auditor. The audit is progressing, and I certainly do not have any preliminary findings that I did not expect, considering that Presbytery has not had an audit previously. And that's not exactly true. We had one in 2015, but concerning the audit process, areas open, I'm going to schedule a time that I can go out to JKR so I can complete testing on the deposits by alternative procedures. I have an investment confirmation I need to follow up on. A summary of preliminary findings, which will require additional exploration, include lack of documentation of deposits for certain JKR activity, and this was something that we knew about. Use of liability accounts in ACS to record certain endowment activity instead of ACS restricted account types. Some disbursements that lack complete documentation. For example, a check needed in advance for the hotel stay, but no subsequent receipt of the actual stay. Worksheets used to gather information on contributions forwarded to third parties with no evidence of review and approval on worksheet. An instance of completed Form W-9 attached to an invoice, secure handling of protected information, and then lack of consistent documentation of purpose and people for meals, and no evidence of review of bank reconciliations. None of those are big in and of themselves. I think we have procedures in place, and we just didn't follow the procedures. So those should be easy fixes. And so they're working, and by the end of the year, we will probably have a final report from them. But I wanted you to know that we're not holding anything back from you. This is what they're finding. An uncompleted goal is that I had wanted to make the reports more user-friendly. I don't think they're very user-friendly right now, for the committee or for the Presbytery. So we're going to work on that, continue working on that. And then we will begin putting very simple financial information in the e-blast. So if you're used to receiving that weekly e-blast and you don't read it, I'm sorry. The information is going to be there. So if you want to know, you're going to have to scroll through it. We need you to come alongside us in supporting us with your dollars. Really, it's a matter of fine-tuning now to get everything in place the way we want it. We've climbed the mountain, but we've got to still work to get things in place. And so we're evaluating and implementing suggestions that will come from the audit and from the review of books that the task force did for 2016 and 17. In the 2020 budget, we do have enough reserve funds to not touch the corpus of the Better Together funds, but this isn't going to last forever. We need to bring in what we spend. As Sally said, and I want to reiterate, we have a very strong staff who are creative, and they're very supportive of churches, large and small. They work hard to meet the needs of the Presbytery members. So we need to pay them in accordance with what they're doing and at the median level of those in similar positions in other presbyteries of our size. We have exciting things happening in Mission Presbytery, as Alan so aptly said. We need to support those. And I want to say this, and I may repeat it. You can now have confidence in the financial aspects of this presbytery, that they are as accurate as we can make them. If there's a mistake, we know how to fix it. And I think that's very exciting. And I challenge you. In 2015, we had shared mission support, which is benevolence, at the level of $450,000. If you continue giving this year, like you have in the last 2 years, from August to December, we will have about $416,000, which is great. And if you can bump it up to that $450,000, we will not be taking money out of the reserves anymore. So thank you. And Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Rita, and thank you for your incredible service to the Presbytery. Personally, I'm glad you're giving some things for Alan and Fred to have to work on. We wouldn't want them to get spoiled, and we'll welcome their leadership as well. And I do want to encourage and challenge my fellow ministers of Word and Sacrament to consider your own personal contributions to Mission Presbytery. This is where our membership is within the Presbytery. For two reasons. One, because the Presbytery needs our support, and two, when you go to your congregation or you go to your mission committee, it's more persuasive if you say to them, I want you to join me in supporting Mission Presbytery. And so I strongly encourage all of us to make that personal commitment. And now I'd like to invite Henry Owen, our John Knox Ranch Director.
Thank you. Good morning. Before I jump in, I want to give a shout out to Lori. Lori, are you in here? There she is. Everybody look back and look at Lori waving. I want to give her a shout out. This is our office manager at John Knox Ranch, and she is fantastic. She's also from Victoria. This is her first Presbytery meeting. So she is coming here to meet all of you all, to visit her hometown, and also to see how we do this, because we get to host this meeting a year from now at John Knox Ranch, and we hope to see you all there. So if you call the office or you send a first email wanting to come visit us, Lori is who you are going to correspond with, and she is great at it, and she's a really important part of our team. So I'm really glad to be able to work with her. We had a fantastic summer last summer at John Knox Ranch. It was exciting, exhausting, life-giving, challenging, and transformative. We hosted a total of 619 campers throughout the summer. Three of our sessions were at capacity, so we had to start waiting lists for them. We relined our pool and rebuilt our pool bathhouse. We paid off our H.M. King loan on our dining hall in full. And at the end of the summer, we hired our program director full-time. We've got momentum and a lot of work ahead to do. So what's next? We are still feeling the effects of the devastating 2015 flood of the Blanco River. We have rebuilt our dining hall, but we have not rebuilt other buildings that were washed away as well. 2 screen cabin units, a bathroom facility, and some staff cabins. We need a roadmap for the future, a strategic plan. So we need to hire professional camp and conference consultants to lead the JKR committee and Mission Presbytery in strategic planning for our camp ministry program. We need to launch a few new programs like weekend family camps and single-day camps for when school is out. All of this takes money. And we have a unique opportunity in front of us. We have received a pledge challenge that any donation from any source, individual, church, foundation, business, any donation made from November 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2020, so 14 months, will be matched dollar for dollar up to $400,000. So our goal is to raise $400,000 in 2020, and that $400,000 will become $800,000. We've got momentum, a plan for the future, a great team, and we invite you to join us in this campaign. We will be casting a wide net, using this campaign as an opportunity to engage new individual donors and new foundations. We have identified 3 key initiatives this campaign will address. First, we need to renovate and rebuild John Knox Ranch to better meet the needs of our community. That includes rebuilding those screen cabins, those cabin facilities that we haven't built yet, but also renovating some of our other facilities that need renovation after many years of hard use and hard love. Second, we need to replenish our Camp Scholarship Fund. Last summer, 2019, with our donors, with you all, with all of our donors, we awarded $51,109 worth of summer camp to kids who could not afford to come. And that enabled 154 campers to come to summer camp. So in 2020, our goal is $60,000, and we want to serve 175 kids. We want to make sure we are committed that any kid who wants to be at John Knox Ranch has a place there, no matter what challenge is in their way. Third, we need to secure and vision the future of camp ministry at JKR. We will establish a reserve fund to ensure the long-term financial stability of camp ministry in Mission Presbytery and prevent lean times at JKR from negatively impacting the overall Mission Presbytery budget. One of the pillars of our program is youth and young adult development, leadership development. A portion of the funds raised from this campaign will go to Mission Presbytery to support and enhance youth and young adult ministry, youth and young adult leadership across Mission Presbytery. We need that strategic plan. We will work with camp and conference ministry consultants to answer the questions: what is God calling us to do? How can JKR reach its full potential as part of the ministry of Mission Presbytery? You can help. Prayerfully consider a financial gift. Light the match by making a donation or building a gift into your church's budget. Donate your time and talents. Contact us to see if you can volunteer with the campaign, and spread the news. Consider who in your life would benefit from an invitation to join in this ministry. Talk to them about the success of our current work and how this campaign will greatly extend our impact. Share your JKR story. The donor wants to stay anonymous. I can share that the donor is a former John Knox Ranch camper. And the memories and impact of those sessions had on their life is the motivating factor for this pledge challenge. Sally is so good at reminding us all that we are better together. And every day that I work and live in this presbytery, it is more clear that that is true. It is because of Mission Presbytery's ongoing support and guidance that we are in a position to be successful with this campaign. We are so grateful to be part of Mission Presbytery. We are better together. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. And now I'd like to invite Chris Baer to come forward, the chair of our Committee on Representation and Participation.
Good morning. You know, we are better together not just when we give together, but when we work together, and that's what this committee is all about. I bring to you an amendment to the motion which was in our report online because we have found 15 more people who are willing to serve. So I would like, and Tricia, I have the motion written out for you. I know you need it. And so, as I read your names, if you're here, would you stand up? And then when I'm done, if I forget it, I need everybody who volunteered to serve this year to stand up, because there's about 40 of you that were listed in the report. So for church development and evangelism, T.E. Kaz Minter for the class of 2022, and R.E. Karen Cobb for the class of 2020. COM for the class of 2020, R.E. Joyce Batty and T.E. Regina Moss, and the class of 2022, T.E. Dawn Martin. For what used to be the Personnel Committee, Claudia, help me, Human Resource Committee. Class of 2022, T.E. Frank Seaman. For MOJC, the class of 2022, R.E. Jeff Cunningham, R.E. Lucy Oglesby, T.E. Jane Pettit, and R.E. Nikki Roberson, and Andres Coetzee. Did I do it right? Yes. For chair. For PCC, the Pastoral Care Committee class of 2022, T.E. Kristen Huffman and R.E. Mary Lee. For moderator-elect, R.E. Carlos Valadez. For finance stewardship oversight, we will remind you that Alan Moseman is up for co-chair. He wasn't highlighted for that on our original report. For ECN, Megan Ludwig for the class of 2022, and she is nominated to be co-chair with Mandy Ritchie. And CPM, class of 2021, T.E. Chuck Kimball. Mr. Moderator, that is our amended motion.
All right, thank you. Comes from a committee, so it does not require a second. Are there any questions? And also, are there any nominations from the floor? And all those in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes.
I would I'll first of all tell you we have just filled 58 spots on committees. But we still have 2 spots open. We have a spot on the Permanent Judicial Council, class of 20, commission, okay, 2023, and 1 person for church development and evangelism. If you have a heart for new worshiping communities, if you have a heart for reaching out and bringing Christ to others, you need to be on that committee, and we need someone for 2022. Fill out a nomination form, turn it in, and we'll do the work of calling people. Thank you. That concludes my report.
I'd like to invite Tom O'Meara, who is the chair of our Mission Outreach and Justice Committee.
I don't need to tell you that we have an outrageous atrocity occurring on the edge of Mission Presbytery, and since we live in a democracy, every one of us is individually responsible for it. I first became aware of this kind of treatment at the Mexican border in 1975 when I was in law school. The guy who sat next to me came back. He had gone on a trip down to Mexico to see how Americans that were kept in custody in Mexico were treated. And he came back and he said, you know how children from Mexico are treated by our government when they're taken into custody on the border. So for me, this is more than a 40-year disturbance about how our government is treating other people. And Jesus Christ will work this out. But what my father would say if he were here is that no matter what you and I do, that he will work it out. But this is our only chance, this is our one and only chance to participate in that ourselves. So I want to talk to you some more about that opportunity. The problem, I think, is a big lie, is that terrible people are invading our country. And the only remedy to that is the truth. And the way I want to approach that with you is to ask you to go to the border. We've had 2 workshops in the last couple of years about what your church could possibly do. We publish a resource list. We had 2 workshops at Presbytery meetings. We publish a resource list, which you keep up on the MOGSA website if you want to find that, and it's really sort of a multiple choice of opportunities for you. And we keep it up on the, if you browse our Mission Presbytery MOJC, you'll get to that page, and we keep that resource list updated for you to make a choice. Now, as far as I know, 43 congregations in our presbytery have made some response to what's going on at the border, some response to immigration. And what I've done in the last 5 appearances I have here, you just elected my replacement, so you won't have to hear this again. But what I've done is really each time show you what various churches are doing. But now I'm really asking you about the ones that are not responding. If I've missed the fact that you're responding, come and see me at the table and tell me that at the Mission Outreach and Justice table. If you're considering something and you have an obstacle, come and tell me about that at the table too, because I want to put it on my list of obstacles to overcome, and we'll do everything we can to help you overcome that obstacle. But I think the bottom line is we have to start with the truth, and the truth is only really ascertainable when someone says something about what's happening at the border. You could say, when I was there last week, it wasn't that way. And so in order to encourage you a little bit about that, and I will say that Matt Gaventa is going to talk to you a little bit about his experience, and his report, or his an article about what he did is in your packet in what do you call it, Appendix F. So Matt, why don't you help me out here?
Matt, before you speak, can you just pull that mic a little bit closer to you? I'm understanding that people in the back are having some trouble hearing our speakers from this mic in particular. So when Matt starts speaking, if you can't hear him, raise your hand and we'll try to get the sound folks to turn up the mic a bit.
That's about as close as I can get it, so hopefully that works for everybody.
Is that okay in the back? You're good? Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
So I went to the border in August as part of a trip through Texas Impact, and I want to say a little bit about it. Tom and Sally have both mentioned the mess and the crisis at the border. And before I went, what I thought that mess and crisis was on this side of the line, that we had detention centers that were overcrowding because of an overabundant influx of refugees and asylees that did not have a place to go, and we were not able to process them quickly enough. When I was there in August, that was not the case, that the crisis and the border has moved to the other side of the border. And if you do not know this, you may know this already, and if you don't, I'm here to tell you about it. So that what has happened is that as we speak, just on the other side of the International Bridge in Brownsville and Matamoros, there are about 1,000 people camped out, but not from me to the back of the sanctuary of a distance from the Mexican border office on that side of the line. They are there because they have left their home countries, often fleeing from threats of mob and state violence. I would show you pictures of them. I was not allowed to take them because of the fear that the cartels back home would be searching my social media account to find these people. I was not allowed to give them anything of value because of the fear that the Mexican cartel there in Matamoros would prey upon individuals that were seen to have received particularly valuable things of some kind. They cannot go home, they cannot stay, and they cannot come to this side of they cannot cross the bridge to make what is a legal asylum claim because we have locked that bridge down for them. The thing that haunts me was the total lack of sanitation. These families have run out of money in the course of making this trek, which means that they cannot access the only toilet that is available, which is a paid toilet inside the Mexican border office. And so they are using the river as toilet, but the river is also, of course, bathing water and drinking water. And so what we saw on that August afternoon were children and youth, my son's age and younger, with lesions running up and down their arms and legs because they are bathing in the toilet. This is happening just down the street from here, and I know a lot of you know it already, but it is not something that one can see without then needing to speak and respond. And so what I am asking is that is for us as a presbytery to figure out and to live into this call of being the body of Christ, even across that border, that we might be able to see and respond together. If you have not made it down there to witness for yourself, we have many resources to help you make that possible. And if you would like to work together on figuring out how we respond as a presbytery, then Tom and MOJC and this body certainly have ways of involving you in that conversation. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, we turn to Tricia and for the overture to General Assembly. Okay. Speak loudly.
Good morning. It is overture season. Starting in the last couple of weeks, we're getting close to the beginning of deadlines for when overtures need to be submitted to General Assembly for various things. So we have two overtures that we're bringing today for you to consider. And the first one of that comes to us from our own Mission Outreach and Justice Committee. It is part of, it was supposed to be Report G, but I missed it when I put the packet together. So it actually looks like the end of Report F, which is the MOJC report. And that is an overture. Let me get to it here. And this is, and the motion that comes from MOJC is resolved that Mission Presbytery, a border presbytery, respectfully overture the 224th General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church USA, working through appropriate ministry units of that General Assembly Council to do the following as soon as possible. And then it lists 11 items that they are requesting that General Assembly consider. Again, all of this, as you read it, is dealing with the situation at the border, with the situation that we have regarding immigration. And so, on behalf of MOJC, I place this overture before the Presbytery.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. It comes from a committee, so it doesn't require a second. But are there any questions at this point about this particular overture? Seeing no questions, let's proceed to the vote. All those in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The motion passes. And so, Trish, would you tell us what is the next step in the process for this overture?
Yes, so the next step in the process is that I go online to the Office of General Assembly and I submit the overture along with record that you will have voted on this. MOJC is already working with, and there will be other entities within the Office of General Assembly who will look at the overture and comment on it. We will also be working to find other presbyteries and or synods to concur with us on this presbytery, as we have to have those concurrences in order for it to go forward to committees at General Assembly.
Okay, any other business at
Yes,
this point?
And that's a wonderful segue to the next one. So hopefully everyone, all of you who are able to vote, picked up one of the papers that was at the registration table. We did receive a request from the Presbytery of Beaver Butler to concur with them on an overture they are submitting to General Assembly. It is an overture to establish the authority of presbyteries to define severance plans for installed ministers. And what it would do would be amend that section of the Book of Order that talks about the relations Presbytery has with sessions. It's G-3.0303C, for those of you who like to know those numbers. and would read establishing minimum compensation standards, including provisions for severance payments for pastoral calls, certified Christian educators, and certified associate Christian educators within the presbytery. And then their rationale is laid out on the rest of that page there for you in terms of this. So we are being asked to concur with the Presbytery of Beaver Butler, and if they get enough concurrences, then it will go to General Assembly for consideration.
Thank you. So this is a motion to concur. It's an action that is being recommended by General Counsel. And so let us proceed to a vote. All those in favor of this motion.
Peter, wait, see if there's any questions
I'm sorry.
or comments.
We need to pause for questions. Got ahead of myself there. All those in favor of this.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry,
Fred's
Fred.
coming.
Come forward.
Fred's coming.
I think that microphone is working right there. Or that one. Try that one.
It might not be on, Fred. Try it again. Sometimes you have to give it a moment. Try it again to see if it'll. Hello? Try the other one there, Wine. There we go.
Okay, thank you.
Would you identify yourself to the floor?
My name is Fred Gamble. I'm a ruling elder, First Church, Kerrville, Texas.
Thank you.
When you look at the rationale, it says that they are remedying a oversight by the Book of Order. Mm-hmm. I think that's a little bit presumptuous that there's something wrong with the Book of Order the way it is right now. There's definitely no federal law about severance. To my knowledge, there are no state laws about severance. And if there is, I think the best remedy would be to make sure that churches follow state and federal law. And with all of the issues that presbyteries have in the things that they need to do to support and guide their congregations, I think to have the presbytery mandate, any presbytery mandate severance is a bridge too far. And I think that we should not concur with what I think is definitely a bridge too far. I suspect this is a very isolated issue with one or two presbyteries, and that those one or two presbyteries should work it out rather than changing the Book of Order.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Up here, in the nosebleed.
Okay, we'll go to Josh while Dan's making his way. Josh?
Josh Robinson, ruling teaching elder, Hope Presbyterian Church, Austin, Texas. I speak in favor of the concurrence. I think it is just as we have minimal compensation for recommendations for our pastors, as both as support for the ministers of Word and Sacrament, it is also help giving support and guidance for congregations as well. And I think all pastors, in a sense, all teaching elders, in a sense, are interim in the sense that they are not there forever. And so when the time comes, whether it's after 1 year, 5 years, 50 years, I think it is, this provides an impetus on the presbyteries to provide guidance on what at least a minimum severance would look like, whatever that case may be, whether that is a healthy dissolution or not. I think this is something that should be voted for and concurred, because I think it'll be a support both for ministers of Word and Sacrament as well as local congregations.
Thank you. We've had one speaker against the motion, one for the motion. Dan, will you be speaking for or against the motion?
For.
Does anyone else wish to speak against the motion at this time? Bill?
Bill Clark, pastor at Westminster, Austin. I think I might be speaking against the motion. I'm not sure. Is that okay to speak
Yes.
at this point? I have a question to Trish. First of all, what conversation takes place, Trish? How did we come to have this presented to us today? And was there a body in our presbytery that deliberated this and decided we believe we want to present this to the presbytery for discussion?
Sure, thank you, Bill. Yes, I received communication from the stated clerk of the Presbytery of Beaver Butler requesting that we concur with them on this. Our standing rules are when something comes for concurrence, it is taken to General Counsel for their review. General Counsel had it prior to their meeting Thursday evening. By the way, the reason it was not in the packet was because we did not receive the request until after the packet had been posted. Anyway, General Counsel received it, and at their meeting Thursday night, decided to bring this one forward for the presbytery for you all to vote either to concur or not to concur.
Okay, thank you for that information. Yes. And I would just add too that I know several years ago it was decided to reduce the size of the Book of Order to make it less of a rule guide and more of just a principles, guidance and principles document. And it seems like that one of the things that I will maybe grouse about now is, well, here we go again and adding more rules to it. So just a kind of a matter of principle versus the whole issue of this compensation or this particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan?
I'm Dan Fultz. I'm the pastor at Grace here in Victoria, and I support this overture because the result of the overture is the result of the PJC saying that presbyteries do not have. It's not a matter of giving them some. It's the PJC has said that presbyteries cannot require churches to offer severance. And this would give the presbytery, it doesn't mandate that presbyteries do this, but it would give presbyteries the opportunity to give guidelines that are more than just guidelines, but are that lead churches to protect pastors who are in a very vulnerable situation, to have a severance package that is necessary for them. Right now, presbyteries can't do that. And this would give them the opportunity under the guidance of the presbytery and for the sake of the pastors and the churches to be more, to be able to lead better. So I would support this overture.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Will you be speaking for or against this motion?
Question of clarification.
Oh, sure.
I can answer that. I'm Charles Walden from Jackson Woods Presbyterian in Corpus Christi. And Trish, I'm glad you're up here because my question of clarification is, as I read the paragraph, the third from the bottom, it says that the church has maintained that while a presbytery can have guidelines and policies concerning severance for ministers at the dissolution of a pastorate, the presbytery has no authority to enforce those policies. I came into Mission Presbytery a few years ago, and my previous presbytery had a policy on minimum and maximum severance and listed ways in which the presbytery would enforce that. So I'm surprised to learn that perhaps nationally we don't have those standards. And I wonder if Mission Presbytery has voted on or debated that before. I just assumed that we had minimum and maximum severance packages.
Correct, and I might ask Dan Fultz to make his way back up because he's chair of COM and probably knows the handbook a little bit better than I and knows the history, of course, for COM better than I do. If I'm remembering correctly, in our COM handbook right now, we do not have anything in terms of set minimum, maximum standards for severance for installed teaching elders or certified Christian educators. Is that correct, Dan?
Yeah, we have guidelines that suggest that severance be keyed to the number of years of service, and we have guidelines based on whether the separation is voluntary or involuntary and things like that. And I hate to say this because we like to pretend we have more authority than we do, but we can't force a church to follow it. We can just suggest. It's not what this overture, if it's successful, would move it to like our minimum terms of call. It would be included in our minimum terms of call so that it'd have the same weight as that. Now it's just guidance to counsel toward churches.
Okay.
And thank you, Dan. In light of that information, I would speak in favor of this proposal because it seems to me without it, with ministers not having access to unemployment insurance, a long-term pastor could be left without any severance after serving church for many years. So I speak in favor of this resolution.
Okay, thank you. Sally, did you want to speak to this? Yes and no.
That's a good presbyter answer.
Yeah, Alan? Yeah, does anybody want to speak against the motion?
That's all right. We still have 9 minutes till the order of the day.
Since you said you wanted yes and no, we'll assume you'll speak for and against the motion.
Sally Watson, Mission Presbytery. I speak against the motion. I think it's unnecessary. And the reason I think it's unnecessary is that we do have guidelines, that every situation is different. And I don't know how we can, and even the overture itself says that it still won't be a mandate. So why bother with it? Okay, so I'm a little conflicted, but I would speak against the motion.
All right, thank you, Sally. Anybody else like to speak? Yeah, Alan?
So, Alan Mosman, Parkway Presbyterian Church. I don't like to admit that I am a recipient of a severance package, but I was. And at that point in time, the two parties are simply mad at one another. The session is mad at the minister is mad at the session, and that's not a good place to do negotiation about severance package because you both want to punish each other. And requiring that there be minimum guidelines, that those be enforced, I believe would take some of the tension out of what is already a tense situation.
Thank you. Chris, will you be speaking for or against the motion? I'd like to invite anyone interested in speaking against the motion. Chris, you have the floor.
Chris Baer, CP from Alice First. I would just remind the body that what we're doing at this point is sending the motion forward for General Assembly to debate it. We think that it's worthy of debate. We do not have to decide today that we really like it. If it's passed by General Assembly, this will come back to us and we will have to vote on it then.
Okay. Any other questions or perspectives? Yes? Will you be speaking for or against the motion? Okay, you have the floor.
Art Nicholson, elder from University Presbyterian Church in San Antonio. Speaking as someone who's...
I think we're having trouble hearing you. Is that right? Maybe just try speaking a little closer into the mic.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. I come to this not knowing anything about it before this, but I also come to it as someone whose day job is as an employment lawyer. And it seems to me that if you set minimum standards for severance, that will be a problem in cases where, let's say hypothetically, the pastor has been guilty of something fairly heinous or terrible, and the congregation, the session, believes that under the circumstances no severance is appropriate. And if you have minimum standards, that would, I think, create a problem there.
Yeah, that's not always the case. I understand your perspective. I can tell you from knowledge of just the church, that's not always the case. It could just be the church decides they want to go in a different direction with a new pastor.
Right, but it seems to me if you set minimum standards, then those are going to require severance payments even when it's not just a parting of the ways where people disagree.
That could be, and I think that's what General Assembly will have to deliberate. What would be the outcome if this passes? And then the presbyteries. Then again, we would revisit this to decide what do we want to do within Mission Presbytery.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you may. The chair will recognize the question has been called to end the debate and to move toward the vote. So the first vote we're going to take is simply to end the debate. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Okay, the majority, the ayes have it, and so we will now vote on the motion. All those in motion of this overture going to General Assembly, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay.
We're gonna have to do
I'm going to ask for a show of hands. All those in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. And all those,
wait,
are you going to count?
Yeah, I think we need to.
Okay.
Keep them up, folks. Keep your hands up.
Keep your hands up, please.
Keep them up. Okay, you can put your hands down.
All those opposed, please raise your hand. Did you get Joel up in the balcony?
Yes, I got him.
Okay.
You can put your hands down. Thank you.
The results of the vote.
We should have made Joel keep his hand up longer because we know he can.
Yeah.
He could do it. So there were 71 yes votes and 52 no. So the motion does pass.
Okay. Thank you. It is now 9:40, and we're going to take a 15-minute break, and so we will regather at 9:55. We are in recess. Actually, we will just reconvene at 10 a.m. That'll be simpler. We'll just come back at 10 a.m. just like the docket says.
Yes. Yes, I'm ready for the list.
Okay. I understand there's still breakfast tacos, so please make your way for a second taco.
One.
two, 1, 2. Hi. There we are. There we are. 1, 2, 1, 2. Let me just turn it up. 1, 2, 1, 2. One, two. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. No. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. No, it's not. Hold that for me, please. One, two, 1, 2. That's good. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Is that testing, testing? No, I think that's right. Yeah.
No, this is what Charleston was about. This is that.
body and bring some actions to you. Vote, I report those to you and thank you for all the ways. And candidates have 9 hours from the time they open an exam.
If anybody's worried about this being an easy test,
For one more.
Monica.
For one more.
Monica did. Rachel wasn't able.
To ECO, a covenant or order of evangelical Presbytery.
주님께서 피로 값주고 사실 아름다운 교회가
Moderator, well, as already know this.
Some of the highlights of the word third, we will launch our first.
I don't know exactly why, but Presbyterian, so that we together, as we like to say in this presbytery.
I'd like to invite Carol Ron to come and give.
Recognized, but if you happen to see Carla, congratulate her and wish next pastor's retreat. So don't say that it.
Sandy, back up. I just want to take care of one housekeeping.
Congregation. I also want to remind you that APSI is.
Take care of one.
Also want to remind you that APSI is coming up.
You in a few minutes with her report about some of the events attending or knows people from your